Hello there, welcome to this slightly longer than usual video. It's a video podcast more like. I made a post on my channel asking if people would appreciate videos which are sort of 20 minutes, 25 minutes, because the previous one I did became very popular and people said they do. So enjoy the timestamps below if you'd like to jump ahead to certain sections. I'm just going to talk about my technical exercise life, really, and how I started and what I did before I discovered the Liszt technical exercises, and then a couple that I learned from him. There's a link to that book below. It's like a free PDF. So all the way back when I was, 13 or 14, the first thing I learned was the left hand stride. This is not going to be in any order of complexity. This is just my personal journey. Yours may be a bit different, or I can recommend what to focus on first. But the stride is really important. It doesn't matter what the music is. It could be jazz, it could be classical. There will often be a moment where your left hand has to come up and do something from a bass note with the little finger or the ring finger. Often my left ring finger will play the black notes and my little finger will play the smaller note, the white notes. 80% of the time, I guess. For some reason, my ring finger just likes to play them, but sometimes it can be the little finger. So that is one of the first things I was able to do before anything. I was known as the rag man at school. I used to play ragtime music, all that stuff. Because the first thing, I have a tutorial on that, by the way, link below, Maple Leaf Rag, because that was what my granddad was playing. He was playing all these old jazz songs, like the classic Fly Me to the Moon. And so I learnt that left-hand idea from him. So let me just go into how I used to practice that in the practice rooms at my school. I would combine this with major scale mastery, of course, and different chord types. So I can't go too low because my stand is in the way. I think F is probably the lowest I can go, but by all means start all the way down here on C. And the basic idea is that you have three ways of playing a stride. You have the simple, well, let's say four, the single finger, and then a chord. Let's play major 7 here. Now, the reason that is precise, because the main emphasis on technical exercises, the main emphasis, there's two of them, are precision and finger independence. These are the two that you need. So this one is more of a precision one. It's the octave jump in the little finger, or the ring finger if it's a black note sometimes. It's that which gives you the confidence. It doesn't matter what the chord is. And one of the things I used to do actually was play that little finger and then change the chord each time I jumped up. My brain would just throw a chord type at me and I'd just play it. So let me just play like major 7. Some I might go to F7, minor 7, minor major 7. I play whole diminished, half diminished, 6, minor 6. It just doesn't matter what the chord is. It's the point of the precision here, an augmented with a dominant 7. It sounds nice. It just doesn't matter. It's that little finger precision. So one of the first exercises I recommend you do, and I did, was just chromatically go up, maybe a few times on each one, like this, until your arm can feel. I mean, this might take a few hours, a few days, a few weeks, but the more you do it, the more precise it will get. You don't need to do it too high because you won't be striding up here. If anything, you want to be going down all the way down to here, really. So that's the first thing I did. And for the next exercise, which I'll get to later, it's the same point in the right hand when you want to do all these rapid arpeggios. It's the thumb precision. So a little sneak peek for what's to come later in the episode. So that's the first thing to get down, that left hand, little finger and ring finger. So doing the little finger on the white notes and the ring finger on the black notes. But of course you can alternate play a ring finger on there. It's just not, you can even do it with the index finger if you want. Either way, the arm gets used to that octave distance. And the same with the right hand as well when that comes up. So that was the main thing I did. And there's 4 ways of doing it. The first way was that. And the second way I realised was that you can do that with an octave. So that got me into doing lots of octave stuff, which is going to come up later in the episode as well. I don't want to get ahead of myself too much. So you'll do the same thing, but with a octave playing the bass. And it's kind of a breathing motion. It's a kind of like open hand, close for the chord. Open for the octave, close for the chord. So into a whole diminished. It's a bit more closed. Open, closed into the chord, opens out. It's like a lung. It's this kind of feeling. but the fingers will always open out to an octave. So a nice technical exercise, even without the stride, to get used to that octave, is just to simply play octaves chromatically. So that's the thing I did. And then I realised, well, I can open the octave and it sounds like I'm playing more notes. When you're doing stuff over in the right hand, to do this, it just sounds like more is going on. It just sounds like a bit more is going on. This is another note in there. So that's an ascending open octave. And you probably know what's coming up. Descending, which I then realised. So try doing that. And again, you can just do that chromatically without the chord. Something like this, and then ascending sometimes. Descending. Anything to drill the octave feeling of the left hand. That's the main takeaway from this. So that was it mainly. And of course, chords have got their own study as well. So you have to put two things together there. That was the left hand. Now the right hand, with this, one of my natural styles that came to me very naturally and I just naturally wanted to do as a fill. So I play a song like Fly Me to the Moon. It's a demo song. So I might go, and then here, there's a bit of dead space. So my hand naturally wanted to go and do that kind of rapid thing. So I had to learn how to do that, even with both hands. Always do things with both hands. So how that works is exactly the opposite of what the left hand is doing. Instead of it being the little finger, it's the thumb. If you don't have that thumb octave precision, you're going to have a very hard time doing these rapid, it doesn't matter what the chord is, do a C whole diminished. This is the exercise you want to do, which I was doing as well. So, of course, you start slow, and you only play the chord in one octave, and the second octave is only with the thumb. Of course, staccato as much as possible. So it's just that octave there. It doesn't matter what the chord is that comes after it. I'll do it with an augmented 7 again. See, once the thumb lands, even when it starts, it doesn't care what the fingers are doing. It doesn't care what chord is being played. And then once you've done the octave, again, it doesn't care what chord is being played. You could even change the octave in each, change the chord in each octave. So you might start with an arpeggio of a whole diminished, but then this time you might go into an augmented. It doesn't matter what, it doesn't care. Major 7 to dominant 7. You're not really going to do that, but it's still a nice, you get the point. The thumb doesn't care about what the fingers are doing afterwards. So try and get that octave down. Let's do a D minor 7. And again, it doesn't matter if the top note is the same, if it's just a regular chord. It doesn't matter if the note is far away, like a 6. It's the thumb octave. Please drill that along with the left hand, little finger and ring finger. And if you want to do it on the way down as well, again, you'll have to do it with your little finger and ring finger on the way down. So like the C6 chord, it's the ring finger playing it. It feels more comfortable for me. And so there's going to have to be the ring finger precision on the way down. And again, the ring finger doesn't care where these fingers go. Could be B7. Doesn't matter. B7. It doesn't really care where the other fingers are going. It has to just deal with that octave. So octave precision, extremely important takeaway from all of this. And of course it applies to both hands. So do these kind of things in all the keys. E flat major 7. See my ring finger's playing this time. Naturally, I didn't even think about it. Doesn't matter what way you're moving. So octave precision, that will help you a lot. The next thing I started to do pre-Liszt was messing around with chromatics. I had my own little pattern, which I used to do with both hands. I've talked about some of these in other videos. I'm just putting them all together in here. And I quite like this one. I'll start on the F. You can start all the way down here. I just have to be careful of my tripod. You simply go over all the notes, but like 3 times. So that's once, that's twice, and then 3 times, and then over the next group of black notes, 1, 2, 3, and then again 1, 2, 3. Now, where does the speed genuinely come from? Because it's like one thing to just play like this, and you might think that's quite fast, but each note is very heavy. It's very, very I don't know, lethargic comes to mind. It's a very kind of lumpy, all these kind of words. But where does where does that come from? It comes from mastering it really, really slowly and doing lots of repetitive patterns in tiny areas. So I dissected the chromatic scale. I can remember doing these literally in the music room. So I was doing these things. And I was trying to make my fingers as airy as possible. Of course, I'm always sitting in front of D, the same note every time, because the piano is symmetrical for me in that way. And of course, I was sitting high enough and far back enough, so I didn't have any like bends in my arm or anything. Everything is like lower than the previous joint. I call it energy puddles. You don't want to have an energy puddle here or something like this. From the elbow down to the fingertips, each next joint is a tiny bit lower. Even if it's 1 degree or 1 millimeter, it's lower. And that helps a lot. You feel like you're more in control over the piano. So I was doing these kinds of things with both hands. This is before I could really play the piano well. This is when I was really practicing. I wasn't just born with this ability. So I was doing these little flick things, going up 4 notes maybe, and going back down again. So starting slowly, eyes closed. I was often play with my eyes closed. And then you just get somehow by doing that more, as you dissect it, you just get used to playing quickly in this staccato way, which is kind of my natural style now. You want to touch the keys like they're red hot. It's that kind of thing. So, and then, of course, the more you do it, you just start to get that really rapid movement. So it's like the keys are really, really red hot, all staccato, just playing in these little patterns like that with both hands. Natural fingering, I didn't even care. Some people play the chromatic scale with their index finger and then put the middle finger on one of the black notes there like that, and then continue with the I have to really concentrate to do that because it's not my natural fingering. So please use your natural fingering, which you can naturally find by closing your eyes. And for me, it's the middle finger on the black notes. So this pattern is to just go over 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the idea. So that came like that. And now another element of that is endurance. I didn't just do it, for 10 seconds or 20 seconds or 30 seconds. I tried to push myself until I had an aching in my forearms. So you would just, even if you just stay on one area, also try not to annoy people. Just try to maintain it until your brain or your arms just get really tired and you have to stop. Really, really good workout. This is what I was doing for such a long time. So there we go. So we've got stride. I had to write these down. We've done some stride stuff. By the way, you can also do the stride with the right hand. You'll never play it, but it's quite a nice exercise to just kind of go like this. Oh, played the wrong note. And, just play some random chord in the right hand. Because, it's an octave, and it's always good to get the octave down. So having just mentioned, so that was stride, then the rapid arpeggio thing with the thumb octave. The left hand stride has octaves in it. It makes you think, well, can the octave go everywhere? Yes, absolutely do everything as octaves. So even that chromatic exercise, of course, it's impossible to do it at that speed. But you can. There's a nice little pattern, not a pattern, more of a technique, where your left hand just follows the right, and the right follows the left on the way down, without the pedal, of course, and you just follow like this. Now, you're going to tense up. The first thing that's going to happen is your arms are going to get all tense, and you're going to stumble like this. It's going to sound very, very, very silly. So do it slowly, and it's like you're, kneading with a K, like the kneading the dough. It's just an airiness. There's no tension in doing this. The power is coming from like a combination of a bit of downforce, the fingers working on their own, and a bit of gravity in there as well. There's nothing coming from my upper arm. I'm not pushing. There's no force involved. It's just. And notice my right hand also. Sometimes the ring finger's playing a black note. And even in the left hand, it's happening naturally. I'm not thinking about the fingering. This is so important. Natural fingering. See, on that one, it was a little finger. But now I can already feel that my ring fingers reaching up for that note there. So don't worry about which fingers I'm using. Find your own natural fingering. And you can kind of do that pattern that I just did with the single fingers, I guess. Etc., etc. That's really, really nice. And you can do that with chords, play chords as octaves is quite fun. You can C minor 7. It helps you to see the shape as well if you do it all over the piano. Let me descend on G7. I'm doing it close here. You can open it if you wanted to. How would we do that? Maybe both hands. It sounds nicer to open the right hand and keep the left one closed in this case. Minor. Maybe a whole diminished. So you have to mix and match and put all these things together. It just comes back to chromatics, octaves, and we're going to get to major scales in just a moment. So do everything with octaves. It's really, really useful. Chords, chromatics, and major scales, of course. So E flat. B descending. D and descending. That kind of thing. Just mess around. I was doing this hours and hours and hours, months and months and months and years. It didn't take me that long to get good. It was possible within weeks and weeks and months, but I continued to do it, so it just became a part of my fingers. The other thing that I was messing around with was playing around on the black notes only, because they're often neglected, and some people even think the black notes do different things to the white notes. People that don't play the piano, they think the black notes are different somehow, whereas of course they're not. They're just a number. So I recommend playing around. There's a couple of things you can do with the black notes. The first one is just to simply have a parallel position, and staccato, just do this a lot. And all of your fingers are going to get practice playing the thinner, shorter black notes. And then try in a different position. Well, all 5 positions. And the A flat one. And the B one. You get the idea. That's quite nice. Now, because these sound nice when they're all played together, you can play combinations of intervals and kind of chords, and it's just kind of fun. You can just play anything, and somehow it sounds like a composition. So just play any 2 or 3 notes anywhere in both hands. You'll be amazed how pretty this sounds. And people will even think you're very advanced because you're playing on the black notes. So octaves. Idea. There's a hint of Chinese sound in there. That's just because of the type of intervals they are. You can go and read about that if you want to. So definitely mess around with the black notes, and of course you can do all these different kind of finger independence things where you're just like doing this kind of thing. Anything you do ascending, you should try descending. Of course, it doesn't matter what fingers they are. It just helps your fingers get used to just being a bit more precise when they land on the black notes. So stride, the rapid right hand arpeggios, it's always about the octave jump, chromatics, everything in octaves, the black notes, even the black notes, play them in octaves as well, of course. Do it all. Like parallel things like this. Couple of jumps in there. Sounds really nice, but I'm not really doing anything. Okay, so I was messing around with all that technically for about, 10 years or so, as well as playing pieces, of course. That's going to be probably another longer video, how I acquired jazz repertoire and mastered lead sheets. So thank me there for just coming up with the third part of these longer episodes. That's what it's going to be. I know it's going to be something jazzy, so I guess that's what it's going to be now, jazz progressions and repertoire. the Great American Songbook Acquisition. So the stuff I started to learn from Liszt when I entered the world of Liszt, Franz Liszt, was absolute finger independence. Like, he put things in words which I hadn't used before. So when I was talking about endurance earlier, I wasn't thinking about, oh, endurance is important. So Liszt taught me a lot about endurance and simplicity in technical exercises. Every single finger combination every finger should be able to do what any other finger can do. And you should use a lot of major scales and chromatics. There's a story, I assume it's true because it was written in somebody's diary, I think. I read it where some students or people who knew about Liszt went to listen to him practice. They wanted to hear him practice secretly. And they were very disappointed because all they did was heard him play major scales. All he was doing is major scales up and down the piano to warm up. And they were expecting him to do all these crazy, amazing things. And he just used major scales. Just think about that. The pinnacle of piano, Franz Liszt, technical ability. And all he's doing is just doing all this major scale stuff, all these inversions of major scales, octaves, major scales, and all these things like broken chords up the major scales, all major scales. That was just one example, of course. It doesn't mean it's the only thing he did. But when you look at the Liszt technical exercises, I actually have it here, actually. I guess I can show you without anything falling over. It's somebody put it in a ring bind format for me. And you can see it's just full of chords, finger independence. It's quite a thick book because it shows you lots of keys, which I guess it didn't need to do. It could have been a lot thinner. It may only have been, like this if it didn't have it in every key. But it gives you some fingering recommendations, but it forces you. See, I've got some ticks here where I was going through them. So that really taught me a lot of things about finger independence and endurance. So, what did I start doing once I discovered Liszt? It was, as I said, endurance and finger independence. So, one of the first things I used to do, which I really, really enjoyed, was I take one finger. It could be the same on each hand or different, doesn't matter. And I would start lower than I can do on here. So I'll start maybe from a G, and I will do a little finger on the left hand, thumb on the right hand. And I would just go up and down, maybe 2 or 3 octaves, chromatically, until it ached. This teaches you about tension in the arms, because if you do this, I'll just stop on C, it's easier. If you can do this for 2 or 3, eventually at some point you're going to have your arm's going to fail, and the more you do it, of course, the longer you can last. But the main point is the endurance and the precision, and the concept that you don't have 5 fingers on the left hand and 5 fingers on the right hand. The concept is that you have just 10 fingers. And if you do these exercises where you're doing the same pattern, but you're using different fingers to do it, it's what I call breaking the brain. And it helps you to be able to play with 2 hands. It doesn't happen overnight, but by training your brain to do different things at different times, it really, really helps. If I could just quickly deviate to another idea I had, I think I wrote it down for a bit later, but that's not too far ahead in my plan. It was to play different timing in each hand. So, for example, let's just take the key of what's easy. Well, it doesn't matter about easy. Let's just take the key of E. You would kind of go like, I'm trying to hang on, that kind of thing. So you're playing more notes. You're playing a certain amount of notes per left hand, and then you'll try and do it reversed. You need to warm up for this one. Let's so it's going to be that kind of thing. Very, very useful kind of exercise to do, and of course you can do it with octaves. So it was mainly this kind of endurance concept. So I spent hours and months, and I discovered, surprisingly, that my left index finger and my right, I think it was my left index finger, and my right middle finger, which I thought was really super strong, it became tense the quickest, because I did a test to see for how many minutes I could do each finger up and down, like 3 octaves or something. And surprisingly, honestly, this is about 8-9 years ago, it was my right hand middle finger. I was doing it, of course, with both, and you get the precision. You can do it with your eyes closed. You can read something while you're doing it. Liszt used to read when he was doing technical exercises. So doing this Super, super beneficial. And you're just developing a strength in each finger so that every finger becomes the same ability as every other finger. So I was doing that quite a lot. So the main thing I took from him was endurance, and the idea that each finger has to be as good as every other finger, so that you don't have to, so that you end up not worrying about, hand independence. It's an interesting concept. Absolute finger independence removes the logic that you've got two hands. And then it was another one was about doing the major scale with different fingering, like unnatural fingering. So I don't mean unnatural, the key. I mean unnatural fingering. So let's demonstrate the key of C. It doesn't matter, of course. Regular for me would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. But then to do it differently, so you might play, you'll take the fingering from a different key and do it here. So let's just take like E flat starts on the index finger for me, and then it goes to the thumb. I don't really think so much about fingering, but let's just, as a quick example, is index and then thumb going out like this. So do that on the key of C. Or let's do it on the key of F sharp, which is, because normally that would start on F sharp, I think. Oh no, that starts on index as well. What one doesn't? I guess they all do actually. Let's start on A with the index. So you get a different fingering kind of pattern over each major scale. That's a very, very nice thing that he used to do, and also to do little patterns of groups of notes like 2s and 3s. So let's take D flat with the middle fingers, and you'll just go up like this. It's quite nice. Moving up one note each time, but only playing them using the middle fingers, and of course doing that with both hands. Let's do it in the key of F with the lowest 3 in the left. Do it with different fingering, lowest fingers in the left, and I'll do the middle on the right as well, like this. That kind of thing. And of course you'll sit down and spend 10 minutes doing it really slowly, speeding up. Some of them are more difficult than others, but eventually you'll get there. So that's a very enjoyable thing to do as well. And as I said earlier, the different timing, where the right hand is doing something at a different speed than the left. There's a nice one which I used to do, which was I do what I call a pinky bounce in the left hand, and you can jump up chromatically. I'll just do it with triads, but it can be any chord type, and you just go up the major scale up and down. Hang on, I had to do it longer than that, didn't I? Kind of thing is kind of fun. So just play around with things like that, and of course with octaves. I'm just sort of breaking it up on my own, just to demonstrate how the hands are not connected. It doesn't matter about left hand doing this, right hand doing that. It's just if I just do it in the right hand and I'll do it higher up, and the left hand just going. You see, my left hand's doing what it wants, the right hand's doing what it wants. They're separated, they're not interfering with each other, because it's just my brain has told my right hand to do this and my left hand to do this, so they do. You get the idea. Another one to do, which is a nice brain-breaking exercise, is to do different keys in both hands. Let's just demonstrate this with, E flat in the left and F in the right. Random keys, I'll have to do it slowly to warm up first. So you get the scale in the right hand, the feeling. Let's get E flat in the left hand. Let's do it slowly first. Yes. It's another idea of breaking the brain so that you remove that sort of concept of hand independence. Another big one from Liszt was chord inversions. Very, very important. You need to be able to fall onto these positions naturally. When it comes to chord inversions, I say they don't exist, which is philosophically speaking, of course, not technically. Because once you know the template combined with the major scale, you can see those note values anywhere on the piano. So if I just take the simple chord of C inverted, I know that it's C, E, and G. All the white notes are, of course, the key of C. Just keep it simple for now. And I can just play any of those C, E's, and G's anywhere. Do it here, do it here, do it here, do it here. It just doesn't matter where you see it, in which inversion. So Liszt would have exercises where you would not just play a chord as a block, but it's nice to open them. This kind of thing. So you're giving it a bit more oomph and to alternate between two shapes, and then move forward to the next one and go back to the previous one. Sorry. And then move forward to that one and then go back to the previous one. You see that kind of thing, like 2 forward, 1 back, 2 forward, 1 back. So I was doing a combination of these things. Now, I eventually got to a technical exercise, which I love, and I've talked about it many, many times. If you do know it, you might want to skip ahead, but it's called the butterfly, and it's for both hands, and I'll do it very quickly, just showing one hand first. You start on any note, and you have to understand this concept. Both hands, well, the right hand in this case, the thumb has a natural stretch with each finger. Each one can go a certain distance. And it's nice using chromatics. You can do it with the major scale as well, but the chromatics gives you more notes. Is to alternate like this to a natural distance. This is another endurance one. This is so good because you will never play an interval which is not included in this technical exercise between the thumb and the index finger in this. You'll never play F and E flat with the thumb and index ever. You'll probably ring finger will play, or maybe the middle. So once you've done that, you'll then do the alternating exercise with the middle finger, which will go a little bit further, naturally. For me, I can basically get an octave, but maybe an E is more realistic. And you want to try and do that, bring it up to speed if you want to, but it's more about the precision than the speed. And you can repeat some of the patterns and things, and you can even jump around, which I don't normally talk about in this, but it's another way of doing it. You just kind of move around like that. That's really good for precision. I mean, look at that. Oh, I use another finger, sorry. So then you'll use the ring finger. See, this is where the real ability comes from, doing stuff like that. And of course you'll do that with the left hand, of course, it doesn't matter what fingers you use. And then once you've done it all with the thumb, you'll put the next finger along, which is the index, of course, and you will do the same thing with the index and the finger combinations. Now, of course, they're going to be smaller because you can't reach so far. And then you'll do it with the index and the ring, and then the index and the little finger, and you'll do it. It doesn't matter. You see, I can do it quite comfortably with all combinations, and of course in the left hand, middle and little finger. Just move it around. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. But the original basic version is to find a symmetrical point, C and E, and you see it's symmetrical because you get black and white notes in the same way, and you will alternate with the same finger going out the same distance. And if you want to move it around a bit, try and move it around like equally. That kind of thing. And then, of course, do it with all the other finger combinations. So I call it the butterfly effect. Super, super beneficial. So to conclude this video, thank you extremely much for listening if you've got this far, is to mix and match all of that and apply different things like time signatures and rhythms. And which is exactly what I did. So when I was doing, for example, these are just spontaneous examples. Let's just do octave major scales. I'll do it in the key of, A flat. And we'll do it in octaves, up and down, descending, ascending, and descending. And the left hand, I'm going to maybe do it as a waltz. So I'll do it like, I'll play a flat major chord like this with an octave. I'm just mixing and matching. So I should be doing it as a waltz. So it's 1, 2, 3. And then the right hand is going to come in and do octaves, however I want to. So I missed it up there. So I'm doing it as a waltz. So I've varied it up a little bit, you see. And just basically everything I've written down, really. So that was a bit of stride in there. You might do that with some rapid arpeggio stuff. Got chromatics, octaves, do stuff on the black notes. You can do that technical exercise only using the black notes. You see, there's lots of variations. See, so it can all be mixed and matched. I don't really know what else to say. Of course, that's just one part of playing the piano. The other part is, of course, acquiring repertoire, which I'd like to talk about in the next episode. That will be mainly jazz-based, but I'll do maybe a bit of sight reading stuff as well. And this is what it comes down to. I also just should finish by saying I do my technical exercises, my physical exercises. And if you're interested in those, I do. I might have a cup of tea first, or I'll run my hands under warm water, which I did before the video for sort of a minute or two. I do this one like a claw. There's no tension. I'm not like hurting myself. I'm just doing it like that. And I get to about 100, 120 or so. When it's done, I relax a little bit, maybe shake my arms like this, wait another 30 seconds before the next one, which I would call the palm slap. And I do that for about 100, 120 times. I do this every day, by the way. Sometimes I don't do it before a video. Sometimes I do it at night before bed. I'll do it when I wake up. It doesn't matter. I always do it at least once a day, and which helps a lot. So there's the palm slap thing, the claw, the regular fist one, where you make a tight fist and open fully, tight fist open, tight fist open. I do the finger roll, where I open out wide, and then my index fingers come in, the other fingers follow, and a very quick fist, just like this. Index first. I mean, you can do it with the little finger first as well, but I kind of like doing it with the index first, not the little finger. So I do that, but it's opening, rolling in. So I do that a lot, and I also bend the fingers a little bit, which doesn't hurt. I'm just bending the tendons for each finger. I do that once or twice, and that kind of thing, combined with all of these things I'm doing, they just go hand in hand, if you excuse the expression, to give me, not too bad of a technique. So yeah, in the next video, it'll be about chords and progressions and all the jazz repertoire, a bit of improvisation, fancy chord stuff, and rhythms and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully you'll find that interesting as well. But of course, I hope this video podcast has been of use to you. Thank you very much for listening. As always, likes, comments, subscriptions are always welcome. Have a look at my video management website, Walls, Pianism, Syllabus, perhaps Patreon, and all my playlists. And I will see you in the next video. All the best, and bye for now.